2 days ago was MLK Jr. Day, Martin Luther King Day. 2023, it was 16 January. Today's 18 January. One thing he did that I agree with, is he wrote an article, The Purpose of Education. I'll put a link to it. I don't know if the whole thing will fit in the description field. But this was in 1947, early 1947, in the Maroon Tiger, the newspaper for Morehouse College. And there's a link. Yeah, Maroon Tiger, January to February 1947 edition. There's a link on kinginstitute.stanford.edu for it. I'll put a link to it. So, here we go. Quote, as I engage in the so-called bull sessions around and about the school, I too often find that most college men have a misconception of the purpose of education. Most of the brethren think that education should equip them with the proper instruments of exploitation so that they can forever trample over the masses. Still others think that education should furnish them with noble ends rather than means to an end. It seems to me that education has a twofold function to perform in the life of man and in society. The one is utility, the other is culture. Education must enable a man to become more efficient, to achieve with increasing facility the legitimate goals of his life. Education must also train one for quick, resolute, and effective thinking. To think incisively and to think for oneself is very difficult. We are prone to let our mental life become invaded by legions of half-truths, prejudices, and propaganda. At this point, I often wonder whether or not education is fulfilling its purpose. A great majority of the so-called educated people do not think logically and scientifically. Even the press, the classroom, the platform, and the pulpit, in many instances, do not give us objective and unbiased truths. To save man from the morass of propaganda, in my opinion, is one of the chief aims of education. Education must enable one to sift and weigh evidence, to discern the true from the false, the real from the unreal, and the facts from the fiction. The function of education, therefore, is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. But education which stops with efficiency may prove the greatest menace to society. The most dangerous criminal would be the man gifted with reason but with no morals. The late Eugene Talmadge, in my opinion, possessed one of the better minds of Georgia or even America. Moreover, he wrote the Phi Beta Kappa Key. By all measuring rods, Mr. Talmadge could think critically and intensively, yet he contends that I am an inferior being. Are those the types of men we call educated? We must remember that intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education. The complete education gives one not only power of concentration, but worthy objectives upon which to concentrate. The broad education will, therefore, transmit to one not only the accumulated knowledge of the race, but also the accumulated experience of social living. If we are not careful, our colleges will produce a group of closed-minded, unscientific, illogical propagandists consumed with immoral acts. Be careful, brethren. Be careful, teachers. Unquote. Amen. Yes, that's a warning for everyone. Teachers, parents, adults. Specifically here, teachers. Be careful, teachers. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what your philosophy is. To those who are doing good work, thank you. To those who want to improve, please do so. I can help. I can do some teacher training. Schools, individuals, I would love to help. That's what I love to do. And to those, and then in the third category, so thank you to those doing good work. To those of you who want to do better, here's some ideas. I have other ideas. To everyone else, my condolences. Quote, if we are not careful, our colleges will produce a group of closed-minded, unscientific, illogical propagandists consumed with immoral acts. Be careful, teachers, unquote. Amen. And this one paragraph here I love, I quoted a lot to students. Help to get them to think so they can help. You know, we want people to be like lifelong learners. What the hell is a learner? What the hell is learning? How do we learn? What is thought? What is conception? What is reason? How do we really learn? How do we learn on our own? Are we really doing that as teachers? MLK nails it. Quote, education must also train one for quick, resolute, and effective thinking. To think incisively and to think for oneself is very difficult. We are prone to let our mental life become invaded by legions of half-truths, prejudices, and propaganda. At this point, I often wonder whether or not education is fulfilling its purpose. A great majority of the so-called educated people do not think logically and scientifically. Even the press, the classroom, the platform, and the pulpit, in many instances, do not give us objective and unbiased truths. To save man from the morass of propaganda, in my opinion, is one of the chief aims of education. Education must enable one to sift and weigh evidence, to discern the true from the false, the real from the unreal, and the facts from the fiction. The function of education, therefore, is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Amen. Unquote. Are we doing that? Are we really striving to do that? Do we accomplish it? Do we know for a fact, for real, not for fantasy, that we're doing that? Can we point to actual examples? Are there things that we've done? Do we have testimonials that prove it? Is it not just a fantasy in our head, or is it in the real world? Questions to ask, things to think about. Thank you to those of you who are doing this. And those of you who want to do it better, I can help. Epistemology, logic, all kinds of things. I have a degree in philosophy, so I could dig into this like deeply and extensively and broadly. As he says, people should be able to think intensively and critically, and we can't train students to do that unless we can do it ourselves. For a fact and deeply, we all have more to learn. Everyone can improve. So let's do this. Let's take this to heart, please. Adults, parents, teachers, especially teachers whose function and responsibility it is to do this. Let's please to make the society better so we have better individuals to make a better society. We have, as he says, as MLK says, we need people to know traditions, and we need people to have the judgment to assess them, to not throw out the good ones as people do today. They just dismiss old stuff. It's old people stuff. It's from before. Oh, they did it, so it's not true anymore. It's a bunch of nonsense. There are timeless universal truths. Humans are humans. Besides, do you, those of you who are doing it, do you really want to disrespect and call the people who love you, your grandparents and great-grandparents, like worthless and have nothing to offer? To those of you who respect your grandparents and people from your ancestors, thank you. I agree. I do the same. I look at what they did good and then assess what they didn't do so well and teach accordingly. Pass down the wisdom of the ages. Youth need training and traditions, and the training to know which traditions to keep and which to modify and which to stop and reject. So let's do that, please. Let's be true to this idea of Martin Luther King Jr. and help the individuals sift and weigh evidence, discern the true from the false, the real from the unreal, and the facts from the fiction. so we can make better individuals and make a better world. Peace.